you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me on your show.
Of course, of course. Um, is it cool if I jump right in with my questions?
You bet.
All right, awesome. Um, so first off, I have to say that before I watched Cocaine Shark and Jurassic Shark 3, I was not super familiar with your work. So these were quite an introduction.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people, aren't aware of the micro budget film community, which I'm a part of. So, if you just watched The Meg and watched Cocaine Shark or Jurassic Shark 3, it might hit you in smack in the face. But, it's all entertainment. So,
For sure, for sure. But yeah, it did kind of feel like a smack in the face, but in a good way, if that makes sense. Um, So, how did you get into filmmaking? Was there a specific film that kind of sparked that interest?
yeah, I mean, it's pretty widely known. When I was 5 years old, my brother and I couldn't go outside because it was raining. So we turned on the television. And of course, back then, there were only three channels, maybe four if you were lucky. And we found a Godzilla movie on TV, Godzilla versus Mothra, and started watching it. And I remember being somewhat frightened by it, but also absolutely fascinated with it. And being 5 years old, you don't know a whole lot about life at all. But we knew we were watching a movie, and I knew someday I was going to have to get a job like my parents and my older sister. And I just remember thinking, whatever this is what I want to do. And literally after that moment, started to explore as best as you could in the early 70s how to make movies, how to write scripts. We had two local libraries, and they both had books on script writing and filmmaking, as basic as they were. So my brother and I would sign these books out and write stuff down and learned how to write a script. So we wrote a couple of those, and then eventually bought a movie camera that could record sound and started shooting Super 8 movies. Obviously the first couple were unwatchably bad, but they're on a DVD somewhere that you can watch as a supplemental. But then we started to, make them better, try more difficult things, shoot stuff at night, use special effects, do stunts. We had to learn how to redub movies because the recording you got on a Super 8 camera was so awful you couldn't understand a word anyone was saying. So you had to learn how to do ADR and dub in sound effects, and they just got progressively more complex. And then video came around, so we adopted that because at that point the next step above Super 8 was 16, which we simply had not the resources nor the knowledge to tackle. So we started investing our time and efforts into video, which was a good and bad thing. It was good in that it certainly, you could spend back then $18 on a videotape and get 2 hours worth of material versus $22 to get 3 minutes. But yeah, the bad thing was you had to relearn everything again because we had learned how to edit film and do all these things. And now with video, it's a brand new medium, and you had to buy different equipment. So in a way, you were starting over, but you could still take those techniques and everything you learned and transfer it over. So we set out to make a feature on video in high school. The first one we started was called Church of the Damned. We never finished it at the time, but I did complete it years later. The second one was kind of a weird hallucinatory type film called Hallucinations, which is out on, I think you could find it on Tubi and Vimeo and things like that. And then we graduated from high school. We were 17. We shot a feature film over the summer called Splatter Farm that got distributed on VHS all over the United States. So that kind of was the catalyst that propelled us into what eventually turned into Jurassic Shark 3, Cocaine Shark, but many movies in between. I personally, I counted yesterday because people always ask me. I think I'm on my 98th movie. I just completed shooting my 98th film, which I'm editing right now. So
That's insane.
it
That's
is.
an insane
It's a
number.
lot. It's a lot. It's from 1987 until today, us sitting here talking, I have never been out of production on a film in all that time. That's 37, 38 years almost.
I mean, after 98 films, what keeps you coming back to it?
That's a good question. I think it's I'm a creative type. I love to create. I find creativity in filmmaking. It's a lot of fun. It's also a lot of hard work, but I'm just, I fell in love with filmmaking at that age, and it's weird to say it, but I've never lost that kind of initial wow factor that came with that. And 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 you have to be passionate about what you do as well, and I'm certainly that. So I think those two factors just keep me going. I mean, I've known a lot of filmmakers along the way that made one or two movies and then that was it. It was enough for them, or maybe three. But yeah, you know, I just love doing it. I tell people I don't want to make movies. I have to make movies. So
Well, I'm glad that you found such a passion for it, for sure.
and I'm fortunate too that my profession sort of dovetails into that. So, I work in media and film professionally. I have since I was 17. So what I didn't learn, I never went to film school. So what I didn't learn on the set of my own films, I learned working with other people in the industry and working for different companies. So I'm very fortunate. I'm a very fortunate person that I wake up every day and get to do what I love to do. And some people can't say that.
Right, that's true. That's true. Um, and it seems like most of your films kind of dabble in this campy horror and sci-fi genres. What about those genres do you love so much?
I think within those genres, you have so much scope to be creative. When you're making a rom-com or something like that, or a bad family drama, there's a limited scope to what you're going to do. But when you're making a movie about a giant monster, an alien invasion, the world's wide open for the creative paths you can take with it. So I'm sure that is why I gravitate towards those films. It's not because I think they're easy to make and they're cheap. They're not. A rom-com is much more cheaper to produce than a movie about killer sharks or aliens or dinosaurs. But I think it's just the fantastic element of it that I was always attracted to at a young age and still am. I made a children's film once. I made a war movie, a western. So I've tried different genres, but it does this is the one that I think holds my interest the most.
Nice. And both films that are coming out here very shortly deal with sharks. Was that just a happy coincidence that they both feature sharks, or do you love sharks that much?
I'm not a super fan of sharks in real life, but you got to respect them as a creature that's certainly outlived us and probably will continue to do such. It's more of a market demand that sometimes drives the productions you make. I produce my own movies, but I also get hired by companies to produce features for them because you get a name for yourself as, a guy who can make a reasonably professional film given the budget in a short amount of time. So it's worked out well. And, sometimes it's an Amityville movie, sometimes it's a shark movie, but it depends on what the producer is looking for. And some producers, the shark exploitation craze hasn't ended, I suppose. So there's probably a few more of them coming. We'll see.
Well, I mean, isn't it National Geographic that does Shark Week every year? So
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
yeah.
People are fascinated with sharks. You know, I didn't get to see Jaws when it came out because my older sister went and saw it with her boyfriend and came home and told my mother that it was about a giant shark that eats naked women. So that killed any opportunity to go see that. But I did see Jaws 2 in the theater when it came out. And you know, it was really a cool experience. And I did see Jaws later when it was re-released, a couple years ago in a theater. But I think people find sharks fascinating is because they are so mysterious. What do they do all day? How do they live 300 million years? You know, all kinds of things. Why do they not get cancer? And the fact that, they're portrayed as vicious man-hunting animals, which they aren't. A shark does not know the difference between you and I and a surfboard. It just attacks what it thinks is food. But movies certainly haven't helped propel that. Um, and then after Jaws, the Italians made a bunch of rip-offs. They made a bunch of Jaws rip-offs, some which got sued out of existence, and others that are finding the light of day now. And I think Sharknado and Shark Week really kind of started the next wave of shark exploitation.
I like calling it shark exploitation.
Yeah, that's an actual term.
Oh, it
Yeah.
is.
Oh, yeah, because you had back in the 70s, you had all these movies about killer nuns. They called them nun exploitation, and they come up with all these weird words. But shark exploitation is actually a genre of films now because there's so many of them.
Oh,
Asylum makes them. The Sci-Fi Channel produced tons and tons of them.
I did not know that was an actual thing. Um, so I have to ask about Cocaine Shark. There was Cocaine Bear that came out a little while ago. Is Cocaine Shark kind of a response to that? Like what's going on there?
Yeah, well, I get asked that by everybody, and quite honestly, Cocaine Shark's original title was called Narco Shark, and it was made a year ago. In fact, it was made over a year ago. It's just taken this long to get released. And the movie does deal, as you know, with drugs and sharks and mafia type people. And it was made before I even knew, or most people knew, about the whole Cocaine Bear thing. It just happened to be a happy accident that our movie had a shark and had some of these elements. The distributors saw fit to maybe cash in on the hot minute that Cocaine Bear was striking gold. So they retitled the movie Cocaine Shark. And that's why it came out so quickly after Cocaine Bear. I mean, I can make a movie pretty fast, but not that fast. So it was just basically a retitle. It was retitled to kind of cash in on that.
Oh,
But
gotcha.
we did it first, and our movie isn't based on anything true. So
Um, with both of these films, you also act in them. And I was looking through your IMDb page and saw that you act in quite a lot of your films. Is acting something that you enjoy doing, or is this kind of like a Hitchcock thing where you have to make a cameo?
I don't have to. I usually do it out of necessity. Either someone didn't show up, or they bowed out of the production, or I just, because it's a small role and I have to be on set, I'll just take something. Like, I don't play big parts in any of my films. Jurassic Shark 3, I kind of have a little bit bigger part. And that's difficult when you're also directing and running camera and all the other things you do on a low budget movie, but it is kind of fun. But I have all the respect for actors because memorizing dialogue is not easy. It takes me a while to, I know some people on my set, they'll just look at it and they know it. I've got to go over it and over it and over it and over it and over it till it sinks into my head. Maybe because I have a million other things I'm worried about, but I don't go out of my way to be in my films. Let's put it that way.
Um, Also in your films, between the two, I noticed some familiar faces, specifically with Natalie. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her last name, so I'm not going to try. But kind of like what you were saying about yourself in acting, do you also have like a loyal group of actors that you just love working with?
We do. You know, our company has a loyal following of fans, and it also has a lot of creative people that are part of it. Almost like a theater troupe, you know. It's almost like the old studio days when you had people on contract, and but you know, these people choose to be in these films. And you know, the thing that I always stress is that you know, everyone involved in these productions brings something critical to it, and without them it would be less than what it is. So you can never underestimate how much talent other people bring to a project as well, because a micro budget film, it's not like $100 million movie where there's so much at stake that one critical bad decision could ruin a film. It's a very collaborative process, which I encourage. If someone has an idea, I want to hear it. Yeah, I may not use it, but that's the kind of ship I run. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work. People can offer their input. It's valued, and you know, the end result is a lot of hard work and people who give their best despite the budget or what people may think of the end product.
Awesome. Um, so you said that you had wrapped your 98th film. Where do Cocaine Shark and Jurassic Shark 3 kind of fall in with that?
As far as how many films, like the
Yeah.
difference between them.
Is it like number 87 and 88? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, there's probably 7 movies in between Jurassic Shark 3 and another 2 between Cocaine Shark. So, you know, some of them haven't come out yet because I usually, the timeline of a film from concept to completion for me is never more than a month or a month and a half. But once you deliver it to a distributor, you know, they have their own timetable and they have other products. So your movie could be a year old before it hits the shelves. And by then I've made a half a dozen more films. So my record for a year was 11 movies, but I average about 6 or 7, sometimes 8.
That's insane.
This year might be 8 or 9. So,
Um, so which ones are coming out next? Like, can you tease one or two of them?
um, yeah, I shot a movie called Yule Log that's coming out, I would think relatively soon. We did a movie called Motorboat that's out now. And then a movie called Doll Shark, which I think was released this month. Yeah, it's like Shark Month for me, I guess. Like three movies I've made. And again, Doll Shark was made last year. So again, it
Hmm,
shows you the shelf life sort of your product. So
awesome. Um, and if people want to stay up to date with you, your work, and your films and things like that, where can we follow you?
you can follow me on Polonia Brothers Entertainment on Facebook.
Awesome. And then my final question for you, it's a little selfish on my part, but since I'm just being introduced to your work now, what film should I watch next? Like, is there a specific order that I should watch them in?
Um, well, if you're a glutton for punishment, I would start at the beginning. Um, Hallucinations, Church of the Damned. Those are early movies. Are crude because of the equipment we made, but they still have the passion. You can see that in it. It depends on variety. There's Halloween Night. There's Amityville Exorcism, Amityville in Space, Among Us, which is kind of a pseudo documentary Bigfoot type picture, which is a lot of fun. There's a lot for everybody. Jurassic Prey, which is a dinosaur movie. Um, honestly, I've made so many. I have to write them down because off the top of my head, if I had my list in front of me, oh yeah, this. It's funny because people ask me what's my favorite movie, and that's hard to say. I don't make a movie if I'm not really in love with the concept.
Hmm.
I don't do it just for money or whatever. It's I have to want to do it and believe in it. So, my movies are like my children. I have two children. They're grown adults now, but my movies are like my children, they may not turn out the way you want, but you love them just the same. And that's the way I feel about my career in general. Every movie you make is, they say you make a movie four times in your head, on paper, on the set when you shoot it, and then when you get into the editing room. And they vary wildly in beginning to end result, but it's still a lot of fun. And I've enjoyed I've enjoyed every film I made. I've enjoyed my career, and I'm really looking forward to the next decade. See what happens.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Your loyal fan base, I'm sure, is also hoping for that too. All right. Um, but that was all of my questions. So thank you so much for chatting with me. I loved both of the movies, and I'm gonna start exploring more of them.
Okay, maybe we can talk again.
Oh, for sure. I'd love to.
All right, thanks so much. I appreciate your time.